Good morning. I would like to call this meeting to order. Thank you for joining us during our weekly virtual MLS breakfast meetings. My name is Christine Cheng of Keller Williams Signature Realty. A few housekeeping tips. All participants will be muted, and should you have a question or a comment, please enter it in the chat box. The host will read it during the Q&A section of the meeting. Please remember to join us weekly as we will have our virtual MLS breakfast meetings every Thursday at 9 a.m. As always, this meeting is being recorded and will be available online on your YouTube channel, West San Gabriel Valley Realtors. A little bit about me. My name is Christine Cheng, and I am your June MLS Monthly Program Chair. Please remember to follow WSGVR social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also watch all our pre-recorded videos on YouTube. WSGVR now offers text messages updates. Text WSGVR to the number 72727. Today's agenda consists of our affiliate spotlight, Joseph Nguyen, Pillar to Post Home Inspectors. The President's message given by 2020 President Mindy Ye, followed by our guest speakers, Lee Lieberg, Government Affairs Director of WSGVR, Leon Townsend III, C.A.R. Director and YPN Committee Chair, and Giuseppe Veneziano, C.A.R. Director and immediate past President. Today, our affiliate spotlight will be Joseph Nguyen, Pillar to Post Home Inspectors, brought to you by the Affiliate Committee. Take it away, Joseph.
Thank you, Christine. Hi, everybody. My name is Joseph Nguyen. I'm a Pillar to Post Home Inspector. And I just wanted to, thank everybody for showing up today. I know it's very hard to get on Zoom lately. But anyways, without further ado, I'd like to talk to you guys a little bit more about myself and our inspection services. We can hit next slide, please. A little bit about us. Pillar to Post Home Inspectors. We're locally owned and veteran operated in the LA County. But if you do need us outside of a little bit out on the outskirts, further out, we can definitely accommodate with that. Our Pillar to Post is a franchise that's owned by Spencer Velez. That's why we're Pillar to Post, the Velez team. When working with us, you can be very positive that our inspection reports are unbiased. Our mission is definitely to educate all of our clients with our findings when it comes to the home inspection process. And with the more we educate your clients, they can have the confidence in the home ownership decision making. We definitely know that not every home is perfect, and they may all have their own problems. But with every problem, there's always a solution. And when working with us, our reports are definitely completed, delivered, and reviewed on site. But there's other ways we can accommodate with that as well, especially with the current environment that we're in. And also, I'd like to introduce a little bit about our Pillar to Post 360-degree virtual tour, and I'll talk about that a little bit more towards the end. Next slide, please. With Pillar to Post, we offer 3 different options for inspections. The reason being is because we know every client is different and they may have different concerns about the home. All of our inspection reports are completed on site. Some of the different packages that we offer are the Plus, the Premium, and the Prestige package. With the Premium package, you get everything that you would normally get in a typical home inspection report. But this also includes thermal imaging scans that we use to scan the entire home for any leaks, moisture or mold, or even electrical anomalies. Your client would also get a monthly safety recall check on all the appliances that will stay with the home. And with the Pillar to Post 360-degree virtual tour, they will have navigational hotspots, which means it'll be a lot more interactive on any of their electronic devices. They would also get measured floor planning for them as well. With the Prestige package, I typically recommend this package for any of your clients that have more of an air sensitivity for mold or allergens, and we can also test for that as well. Some of the add-ons that I'd like to include that with our service is our mold sampling tests, our water quality tests, swimming pool and spa inspections, and hopefully coming soon, our sewer scoping. We're planning to get that sometime this year, but obviously So there's been a hiccup with everything that's going on. So anyways, next slide, please. Given our current COVID environment, we are definitely closely monitoring all CDC, WHO, and any local requirements that is needed to making sure you and your clients are safe when we're performing the home inspections. When we arrive, we are always prepared with proper PPE, which includes gloves, cloth masks, respirators if needed, and sanitary wipes. And before entering, we'll definitely sign any C.A.R property form, making sure that we are safe. We're not just signing it just to sign it, but we are also, being honest about it, or any PED forms as well. We don't want anybody getting sick, and we don't want to get sick ourselves as well. So safety is definitely key here. Also, we can review the, if your clients can't make it to the property, we can also review the reports over the phone or Zoom. This doesn't have to be just during this COVID, but this can be any time as well. Sometimes the client can't make it, but we can definitely work with them and take care of them in that way. Our entire transaction can definitely be performed without any physical interaction from booking and completion. Next slide, please. And with the, as I mentioned before, we do offer the Pillar Post 360-degree virtual tour. It's very, stop the video. It comes interactive and integrates with our inspection report. And then you can see in this top right corner, you can see all of our findings in the report. And once you click on it, you can see where our findings are. You could also use our virtual tour as a standalone to market any of your listings as well. And other than that, that's what you'll definitely get with Pillar to Post. When you work with us, you'll definitely experience the Pillar to Post difference. I hope everybody stays safe, take care, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. At this point, I would like to introduce Minnie Ye again as the moderator for today's speakers.
Hi, at this time, I would like to introduce our C.A.R Director and immediate past President, Mr. Giuseppe Veneziano. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mindy. Good morning, everybody. I'm Giuseppe Veneziano, and this year I am the Assistant Regional Chair for our region, Region 16. This year, because it happened during our the pandemic, our regional chairs, we did something different this year, and we were holding town halls throughout this time. So during the C.A.R governance meetings, we basically recapped what we spoke about during our town halls, and if anything new came up. So some of the things that we talked about was how COVID was impacting sales throughout the states and our regions. There were many regions in our state. There were delays, and there were confusion, a lot of uncertainty. So, you had escrows that were delayed. Some were even being canceled. Some took longer to close than usual. Since C.A.R., since those times, things have changed, but just got marginally better. Overall production was off by maybe 2/3 during that time for the first month or two. And now it's kind of dropped down to maybe 1/3 from normal. So C.A.R has a good projection throughout the year that the market will start getting better. They've also provided some new forms. If you haven't already seen them, well, I'm hoping you have. There's new forms and instructions on showings, on listings, even open houses, how to conduct them. You can find these forms. There are about 4 forms to use in your transaction, and then 2 documents for postings, and they're all located in zip forms. So they actually did a lot of updating really quick. Actually, it was C.A.R was really responsive during this time. The posting or flyers are, they're just the basic things that you would post on the door, like if on your listing on how to properly how to properly protect yourself while showing a home, or any type of precautions you need to take, what to do, what not to do. Also during this time, what we also talked about, C.A.R. provided information on realtor relief during this pandemic. We were able to apply for the PPP loans, and also the more common one for realtors, the PUA, which is the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. C.A.R. provided a lot of resources for us to conduct our business and to get a little bit of relief during this time. So you can go to C.A.R.org, and after you log in, there's a blue banner on the upper right-hand corner with a few coronavirus links from the financial assistance portion, the legal documents, and there's even a cheat sheet with all the new documents, and also the postings. And also in that blue banner, you'll see upcoming webinars from C.A.R. to see how they can clarify our role during this time. And as you all are pretty much aware, during this time, we were considered an essential business, although limited at certain things. So, but we were considered essential to continue doing work, but at a limited basis. So I just actually want to commend C.A.R. for being on top of this from the start, and for them to guide us and keep us informed during these with these countless webinars. It seems like we're busier now than we were back in regular transactionary periods, because there's countless webinars, emails, town halls. It's great to be informed of these things, because you never know if you're not being compliant because you're not informed. So I suggest and I actually encourage people to get informed, and also to if you need more information, just go to C.A.R.org, go on our website at wsgvar.com, and you'll see that you'll find resources to see what you can do and what you cannot do during these times. And if you have any issues during these times that you want to bring back to our region for our continued town halls, I can go ahead and shoot me over an email, and we can definitely I'll put the email in the chat section, so then we can, if you have anything that you are concerned about, we can definitely address it at the regional level, and see if C.A.R. can step in on any of these. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Giuseppe. Next, we have Leon Townsend. He's a CA director, also a YPN committee chair on home ownership and investment housing. Leon, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy. Good morning, everyone. I would be remiss to say that I miss seeing you guys in person. Zoom kind of gets away of the emotional appeal of seeing you guys all in person, and I think I'm zoomed out now, but that's besides the point. So as Mindy mentioned, I am issues chair for home ownership housing, and I'm also a regional rep for investment housing. So for home ownership housing and investment housing, this year was a little bit different. This meeting was a little bit different because of COVID. Investment housing and home ownership housing usually are back and forth with the assembly on the floor, and marketing for bills that should be opposed or approved and things like that. So it had to be done a little bit different because no one was actually able to be, in the governor's office on the state floor or anything like that. So our meetings were held after the board of director meetings. So we pretty much were at a halt. But for there's a couple of dates I want you guys to remember that are very, very important coming up. June 15th is the deadline for the state budget of California. So Governor Newsom has to have the state budget signed by midnight. So do be aware that upcoming there will be a budget. Hopefully, there's going to be some reform closer to housing, which is what we're fingers crossed for to see if that's going to really impact our industry better. August 31st is the last day of the year for our legislation bills to be passed. So any bills that we have that we are looking at to get pushed through and approved will be approved only by August 31st. And then September 30th is the last day for the governor to sign and veto bills. So there are a lot of bills that C.A.R. was opposing and supporting that basically just got halted because of COVID. So be aware that the Assemblymen and the House of Representatives were supposed to be scheduled to come back to the governor's office and to their respective seats about 2 weeks ago on May 21st. So we are not sure what's going to happen in between then, now COVID, and then now with some other issues. So we're not really sure what's going to happen. So it seems like a lot of the bills that we were pushing for have been halted until maybe 2021. So be aware that a lot of things have pretty much just been halted for the year. You know, it's unfortunate because of this pandemic, but a lot of the things that are necessary for the advancement of home ownership won't be able to be heard till either luckily end of 2020 or maybe 2021 in itself. So just keep in mind, again, June 15th is the deadline for the state budget for 2021. August 30th is the last day for the governor and all legislatures to have bills to be signed, and September 30th is in there as well. So homeownership pretty much has just been halted, and hopefully we can get some things going. Now on investment housing, hopefully everyone signed and got the red alert to send to your assemblyman and senator to be against AB 828, which was the, everybody remember what AB 828 is? Hopefully, crossing my fingers, right? Which is the unlawful detainer to reduce rents of a tenant by 25%. C.A.R. is vehemently opposed to this. And even though it's in the public safety, we still wanted to make sure that that happened. There's also one that I want you guys to be aware of. It is AB 2344, which is C.A.R. is opposed to amended. That is the mixed income family multifamily development, where, you know, we were sure if it was going to pull, that they wanted to create segregated common areas and entrances for people that are in the mixed family development. So as risky as that sounds, and having a segregated common area doesn't really hold well for the tenants or any development in the future. But on a good note, we do have some bills that hopefully will be passed this year. One of them is to redo the California Affordable Home Study from 2014. It was a lot of outdated information, and one of the ways that we want to help supply and help the industry itself is to update our affordable home study. So if that affordable home study is actually updated and reformed, we can actually be able to solve at least hopefully a lot of the housing crisis that we're in. So keep that in mind, keep a lookout for that. We are working on some things where it comes to improving, where we're trying to improve our, hopefully that helps. We're trying to improve the supply by transforming, especially after this pandemic, the old motels, hotels, and malls into actual developments for people to live, condos or single family residences. So that's another thing that we're pushing for towards the end of the year. So hopefully that will help, and hopefully everyone can utilize that in upcoming years in advance. So hopefully that'll help everyone. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We're still doing meetings as we have our assembly members and our House of Representatives slowly reporting back. So there will be updates. If anyone wants updates, let me know, and I will get those out to you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Leon. Next, I'd like to welcome our Lee Lieberg, our Government Affairs Director. Thank you, Lee. Take it away.
Good morning, Mindy. Thank you very much. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I miss the meetings. I miss seeing all the affiliates, and virtual hugs aren't as good as real hugs. I miss the donuts, and I miss the networking and the everything that goes on between realtors, and hopefully the market is okay for you, and sales are continuing to happen. And I'd like to give you an update on the meetings that I attended up in Sacramento. It was a very different meeting in Sacramento. It was, of course, a virtual meeting, and we all learned how to do Zoom. I wish one of you techies would have told me to buy Zoom stock before all this happened, because I had no idea what Zoom was about, but now I'm getting to where I'm at least confident. So anyways, the meetings had a series of issues that were covered at a number of different meetings and from different committees. So it's kind of woven together. So as I present, you'll see that I have the same issues that kind of keep coming through. The other thing I want to tell you up front is that some time has passed since we were at C.A.R. So some of these things have changed, but the Assembly and the Senate were to begin meeting May 4th. Of course, that was some time ago now. The Assembly was instructed to leave bills to the committee, and the Senate decided really to cut it down to the most important bills. So as Leon said, there's some issues that we're in favor of that probably won't get looked at this year. But on the positive side, there's probably some things that we would have been fighting that are going to get to put off till next year as well. In the interest of time, and Mindy, let me know when I'm running out of time, so I'll make sure I cover the important things. But I want to start off with the portability, because this was a huge issue for realtors last year, and it was Prop 5. You remember Nick led the campaign on it for our board. We worked very hard for it. We gathered signatures and then went forward with it. It didn't pass. We didn't spend as much money. We kind of saw the writing on the wall and thought it was going to go down, and decided that let's not put all our money into it, and we will kind of regroup and fight another day. For those of you who don't remember what it is, it has to do with portability, and it would allow people to, homeowners to sell, move, take their property tax base with them, and it just expands the portability that exists right now. So right now, if you are, you could go to reciprocating counties, and if you bought properties that are lower in value, things that meet that requirement, then you can do it. But this would broaden it, so you would be statewide. You could buy properties that were more expensive, and it would help the industry align the homeowners with the homes. And we have a lot of homes that are 3 and 4 bedrooms that are occupied and owned by empty nesters, but those people can't afford to sell. They can't afford to buy a new one. They've become kind of locked in, if you will. So we're trying to do that. trying to pass this portability so that we can free up inventory. It would be, we see it as tens of thousands of additional transactions to the industry. And of course, if you have 40,000 transactions, you have 80,000 sides, and it would really help our industry. We're going to put $30 million of our legislative funds into this. We've made some concessions. One of the concessions is really the intergenerational transfer. So the intergenerational transfer, if you are Prop 13'd in, you can pass the property on to your children or grandchildren using Prop 58, and you go onto the LA County's assessor's website and you fill out the paperwork. This would leave that in place for primary residence, but it would take that away for investment properties. Nobody likes to see that. The reason that they were willing to concede that was because they felt that was low-hanging fruit for the legislators who were trying to raise taxes and going to come after us anyways. So we felt that we weren't giving away that much when we put that in there. It's frustrating to see legislators taking advantage of current events and the current situation to advance their agenda, but that's clearly what you are seeing right now. Seeing people who have always been advocates of rent control or tenants' rights, and they're using these opportunities and people's sympathy towards tenants to advance a lot of their agenda, which they would have advanced sooner had the people been ready for it. But hopefully they're wise to their tactics. I went to a GAD workshop, and they had a panel of 5 speakers, and the speakers were interesting, and I wanted to kind of talk about that to lay a little foundation for some of the issues. The first speaker was Rhonda Guthrie from Edison, and she talked about how the government came in and canceled all non-critical outages and improvements. It really affected their ability to provide service. It gave them some exposure to incidents that might come down the pipe because of improvements and to the infrastructure that weren't made. The next speaker was Jeff Montellano, and he works with cities and counties, and he was interesting as well, but I'm not going to dwell on him as much. Whitney Ayers was from Southern California Hospitals, and she's like an association much like we are, or C.A.R. is, but only for hospitals. And hospitals were approached by the governor and said, you need to ramp up for this pandemic. You need to have a 50% increase in your occupancy, how you're going to see patients. You need to do all these PPE procedures. They went out, they started getting tents and cots. They were seeing videos of patients in hallways in Italy, and really trying to, the government really came down on them and said, you need to do this and be prepared for this. Well, the hospitals felt it was their duty to respond, and they did. And they ramped up, and they went out and got tents and cots and increased their staff. And they were prepared for a surge that never came. Well, we hope the surge isn't still coming, and we hope that we're past the worst part of it. But anyways, they were geared up. And in addition to that, all the elective procedures and all the people that would normally be in the hospital didn't show up because they didn't want to be around the COVID-19 patients. The next one was Audrey Boynton from the California mortgage industry. And she talked about how they have record low interest rates and things of that nature. But then she talked about new guidelines for mortgages and what they're looking at. And then the governor came in and he decided to bail out all the tenants, even those paying the mortgage, stating that they would not have to pay their mortgage. Well, of course, he didn't consult the mortgage industry, so they're not really in tune with the problems that are starting to arise. The last one on the panel was Daniel Eukelson, and he's from AGLA, the apartment owners of Greater Los Angeles, and he again talked about how the governor came in and decided that tenants shouldn't have to pay their rent. As Leon mentioned in AB 828, they're pushing for a 25% decrease in rent. There were issues. So part of my point is that government was very heavy-handed throughout this. They demanded that all these industries make concessions. They didn't really consult them, and there's been a lack of transparency through all this. So here you have all these people that, and many of them affect our industry, certainly property owners, apartment owners, mortgage industry. They all affect us, and we're going to have to live with the consequences. There was a presentation, and you'll see, I'll keep coming back through some of these issues, but there was also a presentation from Damien Schiff, the Pacific Legal Foundation, and they're an interesting foundation that has looked at mostly property owners' rights, and they are preparing a suit against Monterey County regarding the eviction moratorium, and we'll see where that goes. And of course, I haven't told you about the eviction moratorium, but I will. They said that in April, 89% of the tenants paid their rent. In May, that number dropped to 80%, and there is definitely concern that in June, that number will shrink again. So the assembly did start up again on May 4th. Leon told you that the budget has to be finished by 6/15, June 15th. The Sacramento was really tooting their horn about how they had a budget surplus, and with record low unemployment and a very strong economy, they were probably prepared to have several $billion surplus for the 2020 budget. Unfortunately, that surplus has turned into what many are predicting to be about a $50,000 to $55,000 shortfall now. $50 to $55 billion shortfall. The Sacramento is going to have to react to that. They're going to have to increase taxes. There's a lot of things that are on the chopping block. I see it as a great redistribution of wealth, and those who have wealth and means and property really need to be aware of what's going on and exercise their rights to vote and also to advocate. Some specific bills, there was AB 1905. This one would have reduced the mortgage interest deduction. It also would have eliminated the mortgage interest deduction on second homes. And there was a call to action. I know many of you responded to that. The good news is that that was pulled in committee. So that's a winner. So we're happy about that. That was 1905. AB 2501 would have extended the forbearance time periods to 180 days. It would have affected it would, and this one is still in play, although we are opposed to it, and it will affect lending. 828 we've already talked about a little bit, but it would affect the moratorium on foreclosures, unlawful detainers, so your ability to evict tenants for not paying, and also for other public nuisance issues and things like that. The good news was really that we thought 828 was dead and dying. Some of the sponsors, co-authors had pulled their support from it. And then there was the caveat that it was dead as written or unless amended. And then the bad news was it was amended. And then it was amended. And then it was amended. So it's now been amended 3 times. We're still opposed to it. It hasn't gone to a vote. So we still have time to fight it, and we're watching the progress. Hopefully it will die in committee, or before it reaches a full vote, and hopefully before it passes for sure. SB 939 Wiener, he's I do not see him as a friend of real estate, but he's one of the legislators that's been advocating the tax on service, basically a sales tax on service. If you remember that issue, it comes up about every couple of years. And he was sponsoring SB 939. Well, 939 is kind of on par with is kind of on par with 828 for residential, but this one is for commercial. And it's trying to make it easier for businesses. You know, it's very easy to make concessions to businesses and to tenants, particularly when you're not paying for those concessions. And that's what's happening here. Legislators want to make it easier for businesses to get out of their lease, to reduce their lease, to renegotiate rents. And it would really be a destabilizing factor in the commercial, in our commercial industry. I see the major benefit for businesses that want to leave California. They'll be able to get out of their lease without any cost. The last one I'm going to talk about is AB 2463, and that has to do with liens on properties. We actually supported this one, but it would make it so that they were trying to make a broader assortment of liens that could be attached to properties, and we were against that. We know what those do to title, and we know how it complicates the issue of and closings. So we talked about eviction moratorium. It was started by the feds. They came out and said that every mortgage that was underwritten by a GSE, a government entity, a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Ginnie Mae, VA, FHA, all those types of loans they would not foreclose on. They would offer forbearance. Then the state of California came out and they did their eviction moratorium. And that moratorium, by the way, was set to expire on May 31st. It was since extended and now is in place to July 28th. Then the LA County came in with their set of requirements or limitations on landlords and their eviction moratorium. And as you might expect, they are the most restrictive to property owners and landlords. And it really is due to the makeup of the county supervisors right now. Then the city started to come in and the city started to put their eviction moratorium in place. I live in the city of Alhambra. My office is in Alhambra. So Alhambra came in and they put in a moratorium, an eviction moratorium. We followed it. We talked to some of the council members, and basically we weren't really opposed to it. We knew that people needed some time, that there were issues. We kind of wanted to sort through these. So we did not oppose the city's eviction moratorium. That moratorium very closely mirrored the California state moratorium. So from there, the activists who have long been, I'm not sure if they're more against landowners or if they're more for tenant rights, but they use this opportunity to advance an agenda that they've been pushing all along. So their solution was to have the cities retract their eviction moratorium. And if that was the case, then they would default to the city or to the county of Los Angeles. So they saw this as a way that they could then go back to the county, make changes, and the cities couldn't do anything about it. So when we caught wind of this, there was a major response to the council. Remember, we had not opposed the eviction moratorium. We wanted it locally controlled. Okay, you can have 6 months to pay your back rent. We'll work with you. What we're trying to convey to them too is that most landlords don't want to evict their tenants right now. There are some that are far below market rent, and they might use this opportunity if they're not able to pay. But by and large, commercial landlords and residential landlords are not trying to evict tenants. And the ones that I've talked to are pretty understanding and willing to work with their tenants. We want to encourage that as well and help them get out of a difficult time. I believe landlords are much more compassionate than they're portrayed in the media and at these legislative meetings. So then the urgency ordinance that came through was passed as an urgency ordinance, meaning different requirements to get it through for the eviction moratorium. They started off anybody who was affected by the coronavirus would be able to stay home, not have to pay rent. Then if you had to take care of a child that was not able to go to school, so that probably was about 10% of the people or so. Then they said, well, if you have been laid off or you have an income reduction, then that was probably about 25% of the people. Then they said, if you had to comply with a government agency to stay at home, And that probably bumped it up to about 50% of the people. And then they said anybody who experienced out-of-pocket bills. Well, there you go. It's probably 100% of the people now that could qualify for it or get it one way or another. Again, not really consistent with what they were selling us at the beginning. But we hopefully will get through that. And July 28th looks to be the date. I know that there's a lot of tenants that haven't been paying their rent, and I don't think that money is going to magically appear on July 28th. So I do foresee trouble down the road. Okay, moving on with different meetings. We had federal meeting. Melanie Barker, who many of you know, who's probably going to be the C.A.R. president someday, was talking about supporting the NAR proposed home buyers tax credit. And if you remember in 2008, there was a tax credit of $8,000. They were, it was very effective, and it helped people, particularly new owners, get into housing. So they're proposing that. One of the issues that we have is on it affects a lot of issues and a lot of write-offs, but it's indexing. So that if we do get into an inflationary period, those benefits stay relatively the same and are not diluted by indexing, or by inflation. And of course, if you have your state and local income tax deduction, which is $20,000 for a couple, that deduction doesn't go near as far in California as it might in some of the states, perhaps in the Midwest, where property is lower values. Matt Roberts was there, and he talked about some of the issues that we experienced in 2008 and how we're trying to address those early. One of those was the bulk sale of foreclosures to investors. And if you remember, there was a lot of property that was foreclosed upon that we as realtors would love to have been able to get our hands on and sold, but it was instead sold for 20 cents on the dollar or 30 cents on the dollar to investors in bulk. We're trying to get that removed. We're trying to do the tax incentives for home ownership. There's much concern right now about the housing supply. We had a housing crisis before this. Many developers have kind of pulled back. Housing starts came to a stop 3 months ago. The policies of rent control and eviction moratoriums do nothing to incentivize new supply. We've long viewed this housing crisis as a supply problem, excuse me, and not a demand problem. There are issues with market liquidity. The mortgage rates are low, and everybody's excited about that because they're low. What they told us was really they should be lower, because if you look at the gap between what mortgages cost and what the banks are paying for the money, that spread, historically, if you apply the same spread, we should be at about 2.25% interest rates for our mortgages. So the industry, the mortgage industry, is taking advantage of this situation. We're happy that interest rates are low. They're just, because we're content and satisfied with that, they're taking advantage and really making their spreads are wider.
Thank you, Lee.
Am I done?
Almost. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay. Let me just real quick highlight to see if there's any other things that I missed. One thing I would like to say is that there was information about the forbearance and how it would not affect your credit. Well, so they've again told the credit agencies they can't do it, but the lenders are viewing those as loan modifications. So in a climate where lenders are making it more strict, they're lowering the debt to income ratios, they're increasing the requirements for FICO scores, and now if you did one of these forbearances, they're looking at it as a loan mod. So I would encourage you to tell your clients to think twice before they do a loan mod. And anyways, I thank you for listening. I thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing all of you again in person. And thank you, Mindy.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Giuseppe and Leon, for your very informative presentation. Thank you so much. Take it away, Christina. Christine.
On behalf of West and Gabriel Valley Realtors, we would like to thank Mindy Ye, Lee Lieberg, Leon Townsend, and Giuseppe Veneziano for their informative presentation. Please make sure to participate in our education classes. A list of upcoming classes is displayed on your screen. Thank you everyone for joining our meeting today. We hope to see you again next week for an update on Diamond Bar's budget and response to COVID-19. Andrew True, City Councilman of Diamond Bar. Please support our affiliates for your transactions. This meeting is now adjourned.